大家好，现在大家正在陆续进入直播时间。大家晚上好。先让我自我介绍一下，我是Senior Manager in a Big Four company in a financial services practice of audit。希望大家都有一个愉快的元旦。我知道大家都非常忙碌，在12月份参加考试。希望考试成绩都如愿以偿。So let me talk about how you get to know about Big Four, or how you get known by the Big Four people. So the way they say is, you're never too early to prepare your career, or you're never be too late. So I think audience on this lecture probably have all different levels in university. I think all different level, you probably have a different stage of things you should start doing right now. So if you should talk to your campus career fair office to say when the Big Fours are going to have career fair in your campus. And also a lot of times we would have experienced staff or managers that go into the career fairs. During the fairs, they would tell you how they got hired by the firm and share your experiences. A lot of these associates or managers probably are graduates from your school. So you should really take advantage of the career fair. And also maybe talk to your career office managers. Maybe they can share some of the experience or tips with you. And also maybe have some questions, but not very technical questions, that you can share with the recruiters or share with the staff that were at the career fair. I think this is very important because you never know that the opportunity for internship or opportunity for a full position can occur as a result of this. First of all, you need to ask yourself a question: where would you like to be? So what area would you like to be? In New York or in West Coast or East Coast? Because all the Big Four has a presence in most of the major cities or medium cities in the U.S. So you need to really think about where would you like to be. Once you know where you would like to lock down the cities, then you should find the contacts of their recruiters. All this information are public information, so you are able to go to Big Four's U.S. website to find who are the specific recruiters for that particular city. And then the next step is really to prepare your resume, and then make sure your resumes are honest in describing your skills and the experience, and also make sure your resumes are not too long. So normally sticking to a page or page and a half. Maybe just checking those kind of details items such as formatting, spellings, because those little things could tell a lot about you. You probably don't realize. The key skills they're looking for are such as communication skills, project management skills, teamwork, interactions, leadership, and some of your accounting techniques. Bear in mind that you are entering into an internship level or start of a full position, so they're not expecting you to know everything, that technical related questions or experiences. So please make sure you do not lie on your resumes. So we're just talking about the resume. So I might share some of the experience of when I was doing interviews. So I recently did an interview in New York, and then they said something they had experience on their resume. When I was asking some of the technical questions based on their resume, I don't think the level of understanding technical-wise of that student is at the level that he accomplished in their resume. As a result, we don't think he suit our culture. As a result, we didn't end up hiring him. Another big area of your resume is education. So make sure you include your schools and your majors, also your GPA results and the graduation date. Other things that you probably need to draw the recruiter's attention. So the resume help you to stand out from the crowd. So maybe something interesting about yourself, volunteer positions, or the clubs or societies you are included in your school. What have you done with this volunteer organizations or your club? How are those kind of indicate your leadership skills or communication skills? All those are very important in the Big Four culture. So we talked about resume. I think one of the things we want to cover is, as you may know, the big recruiting happened in the fall, but you're probably thinking, okay, it's a spring now. Do I still have opportunities to get into the Big Four? The answer always is yes. So Big Four is actually doing campus recruiting all year round, either through recruiting of full-time position or internship or some short-term leadership course. I'm talking about 1 week course. All those courses or internships are a great way to get into Big Fours. I can tell you, in my firm, I think 60 to 70% for the full-time position we offered in New York office are from previous interns or someone who attended those leadership courses, because all this gives you the opportunity to be known by the firm. So we probably prefer to someone who had a previous intern or leadership course with the firm. However, you're probably asking, okay, I missed all those. What should I do now? I think what you should do now is trying to understand more about yourself. So understand what are your differences from other people, and really, really try to work hard on your resume and trying to be more proactive with the recruiters within the company. All the Big Four, they would have different events or different activities in different locations. Make sure you keep alerted to those events and attend all those events and be prepared to be known by the recruiters or staff in KPMG or EY or PwC, those Big Fours, because they are, that's one of kind of the first mini interview you would have. So if you make a good impression in those events, the chances are they would get your name and give you an interview. I think the next item I'm talking about is for some of you who may have an interview already or have an interview offer. So what should you do in the interview? How are you prepared? So these are just some general experiences that I can share with you. At this stage, your resume has been passed through your the filter process. So you need to understand your resume to make sure you read a few times of your resume to and prepare to speak to it. So a lot of companies, they would carry something called behavior interview. So what does the behavior interview mean is that it is not an open-ending question that the interviewer is going to ask you. Instead, they ask you a question, share your experiences with us. So those experiences should demonstrate the skills I mentioned before, such as communication skills, project management skills, teamwork, interactions with other team members, and how your leadership skills are being presented. Sometimes they also ask you a question about what did you do if you experience some failed situation. So you should be prepared to have some story shared with the interviewer, but because everybody falls, so I don't think because you fail one time doesn't not mean you are not a good person. So we also learn from the skill how you fail. So maybe to be prepared, what lessons did you learn as a result of this failure experience? And also, from personal experience, I would really suggest you to doing some mock interviews with your friends or your someone you can find. So to be prepared, or especially maybe someone you don't really know, because in that case they're not biased about yourself. I know some college do offer this with to the student, or some external helper can help you to do some mock experience. Another thing is maybe talking to some of your colleagues or your students in your class who had a interview experiences before you. Maybe chat with them to see what kind of questions did they get and how did they prepare for the interview. And I understand that it is very easy for me to say it, don't get nervous in the interview. I think the practice would help you. The more practice you do, the less nervous you will get. So nobody is born to be a public speaker or to be prepared for every question. So more practice, doing more and more mock interviews, that's a great way to be successful in the interview process. Maybe also the presence of you on the day of interview. So you need to wear something that you are comfortable with. So, and give you the confidence and a boost to your professional image. So if you wear something, make sure you wear those clothes that you're planning to wear in the interview beforehand. Make sure you're comfortable in that, and so that will help you to be yourself, get less nervous, and also probably to make sure you're confident and also not overdo of things. For example, for girls, don't put a lot of makeup on you. Maybe just light makeup, and make sure your nail polish are reasonable. Limit the jewelry wears, or have like nice perfume on, so you are not kind of give a strong opinions of yourself. So do it nice and normal. Don't have something that stands out. So before you go for the interview, you need to do a little research of the firms that you are interviewed for. Maybe look around their website to see what are their recent publications, what are the firm's culture, what are things that you think attract you of that firm. So those are the things I think it's important to show the interviewer that you are so passionate about to join the firm, to grow yourself, to learn, to continue your professional learning. Below are some of the small tips I can share with you during the interview. So maybe practice your handshake and a smile. The handshake is quite important to kind of show the confidence of you, and the smile kind of give you you are energetic, you are so passionate about joining the firm potentially. Also be relaxed, have eye contact with the interviewer. Don't be shy. However, I'm not saying that you should become very casual. So some things you normally do, say you're shaking your legs, or the habit that you always do when you get nervous, maybe ask around the friends around you to see what those are. So it gives you time to try to practice those small little things before your interview. However, if you're doing the same in the interview, don't worry about correcting them. You're probably going to get worse. Other things you probably, so if you don't really understand the question, don't be afraid to ask them again, or ask the interviewer to say it in a different way. And then you need to, because you are so prepared at this stage, you've gone through your experience and your examples. So think about in a very short time how you can use those the examples, experiences that you prepared in advance and push into that question. And when you get to a question, there is no rush to answer it. So you always have a couple of seconds to think about how you want to address it. So don't be afraid that there is a moment of silence, because sometimes, especially in this case, a moment of silence is better than you stumbling over your words that doesn't make sense, or it could be a bad answer. One other thing probably is a disadvantage to us who are not English is not our first language. So when you get nervous, you probably, I'm talking about my own experience. When I get nervous, I always rush to speak things very, very fast. Probably get weird with my accent. So I think one key thing I'm still practicing is trying to slow down your speed. So have a word clearly stated. So because all the big fours, they are not allowed to judge you based on races or your background. So as long as you can clearly communicate. For some of you may not have a lot of experiences before the interview, because the Big Fours do not expect you to have a lot of experiences. It's a campus recruiting, so it's not experience to hire. So don't be apologetic about your lack of experiences. You should show your skills and experiences through another way. For example, through your school projects, through your charity work, showing you have strong communication skills or teamwork skills that supporting you or your skills. So that's the brief kind of tips that around interview stage. I think I probably go back to the campus recruiting as to the location. That's the first step as to where would you like yourself to spend the rest couple of years, in what city you want to be. This is very important in a Big Four environment, because for CPA, as you know, it's CPA is licensed in different states. So each state has their own CPA qualification criteria, what kind of a credit you need to get from school. So all those are very important to make sure you are very sure those are the locations you want to tackle for. So we're just approaching to the 45 minutes timeline. I think I'm going to stop talking to see whether you have any questions, so I can probably answer any of the specific questions you may have. 刚才有一个学生问对 experienced hire 有什么意见或建议So the first question is about the experienced hire. I think the experienced hire and for campus direct hire for students are kind of the same. The new thing is obviously your working experiences. So you should use the examples as part of your working experiences to demonstrate your skills. such as communication skills, project management, and some questions they may ask you, why would you looking for another job, or what are the things you learned from your existing employer. So be prepared to answer those questions. And sometimes they're also going to ask you what are the key things you learned from your existing employer or firm. So those are things that can add to your value. So maybe think about things that you really appreciate from your existing employer that supporting your skills that would add value of yourself. One of the interesting things that you said that you didn't do accounting as your major. So maybe you need to look into what kind of accreditation you do need for CPA qualification. So this is my answer to the first question. The second question is about the spring hiring. So all the offices, they would have their own like hiring notice on their website. So please check their website. If not, I think you should. Some of the offices depend on the size of it. So for example, in New York, obviously they have a lot of people to hire. So they would have a general kind of a general email address. So maybe email those particular offices, recruiters in those offices to ask those questions, and also talk to your college career office. Because as I mentioned earlier, the Big Fours are working closely with their local colleges that they have previous experience or have a good relationship with. So when the Big Fours are looking for people, they go straight to those career offices in those colleges, sometimes before even go to their website. So this is a very good opportunity to identify things that are known by the public. For financial analysts, so a lot of Big Fours are kind of expanding their advisory practice. So I know some Big Fours websites, they actually have match your degree options. So you can put into your exact degree to see what are the departments you can apply your job for. I do know accounting major can be hired for analyst role in my firm. I think the second part of the question is, what happens if you are not in the target school? If you are not in the target school, then you really have to use the tools that are available to the public. For example, trying to identify the individual recruiters for the particular office that you are trying to get into. Or if you have friends who are now working in that office, so maybe talk to them to see whether they can refer you. So that's another shortcut to help you to get a land of an interview. I think I answered all the questions that I can see from the chatting tool. So if you have any other questions, please let me know. So for the spring recruiting, as you know, that January, February are busiest time for Big Fours. So I do not think there are routine interviews carrying out for campus recruiting for January, February. However, it is never too late to prepare yourself for that day. So you can always send in your your resumes or contact the recruiters all year round, but I think for the spring, the interview is actually happening in end of March or early April. In the career fair, I think you should asking the recruiter, maybe prepare to introduce yourself, and always friendly with the recruiter. So maybe have a little chat, say how's your day, how you've been doing here, do you like the campus? But then you probably go into the key questions, trying to understand what kind of areas or departments they're looking for people, and roughly how many people they're looking for. Or maybe just ask, can I get your card so I can email you my resume? Or if you have, always, or sometimes if you have your resume ready, maybe bring a copy with you. So they do value all those resumes they received on the career fair. And also because it's your first kind of a mini interview, as I said, be energetic. So be friendly, be smiling, so make a kind of a good impression that you want to work there. So that's my suggestion to the last questions we have for tonight.